Hi there, I'm Stefania with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness here in Hamilton for our 2018 National Conference on Ending Homelessness. And I'm here with Juha Kaakinen from the Y-Foundation in Finland. Juha, I wanted to start by asking you, you talked about how Finland aggressively started implementing Housing First during the 2008 recession, and it wasn't about the money. So can you step us through how you're able to get it started and how well Finland is doing right now in housing its homeless population?
Well, we did some evaluation about how we had been handling with homelessness before. We had several national programs even before that, and one conclusion was that there was always a group of long-term homeless people who were left out, whom we didn't find the right solution. So we decided that we really have to refigure or completely change the existing system, how we deal and how we try to end homelessness. We made a program paper, and the government started a national program to reduce long-term homelessness. So the idea originally was to end long-term homelessness, to concentrate on the most demanding, most vulnerable group of long-term homeless people. And for that reason, we decided that we have to provide permanent housing. That's the issue. Permanent housing, that's what all homeless people need, a permanent housing. Your own rental apartment with your own rental contract. That was the starting point. But it also meant that we have to change the role of the existing system, especially temporary accommodation. And for that reason, one crucial element of the program was to renovate the existing shelters and hostels into supported housing. So it was a complete transformation. So at the moment we have only one emergency service center for homeless people in Helsinki with 52 bed places. In 2008 we still had in Helsinki around 600 bed places in shelters and hostels. So that has been an important element. But of course the key issue is to provide housing. You can't have housing first, as I said, without having housing first. So we have used different channels from social housing, buying flats from the private market, building new to provide the needed housing. And it has resulted in the situation where we virtually have no rough sleeping in Finland. We have in statistics, you can see that there are people occasionally rough sleeping, but it's not a phenomenon anymore. You can't see people sleeping on the streets in Helsinki, for example, and it has been quite a remarkable change.
It's great that you mentioned temporary shelters because right now in Canada, in some major cities, particularly Toronto, there's been a huge shift in focus on providing more emergency shelters to meet the housing or homelessness crisis in that city. And other communities, they're often faced with that choice because sometimes more shelters is it's faster, right? But then it can turn into the only long-term option for folks if we're not, building to the need or providing that social housing. So what would your advice be to cities or communities in Canada who want to do housing first but seem to be more attracted to emergency temporary shelters?
I think that one of the strengths in Finland has been that we are very pragmatic and also that we really work together, different actors. So in Finnish case it has meant the state, local authorities and NGOs. But I think that the main thing is that you have to think about how much you need housing and how you can provide that housing, so that you can really do something with the existing temporary accommodation. Because in many cases it's not a solution; it's an obstacle for solving homelessness. I have heard so many stories about homeless people saying that they prefer sleeping rough if the only solution for them offered to them is shelter. So that's really something to think about. And it has the character of temporary accommodation is that it's going to be temporary for a very, very long time. So it's not changing the system.
How did you get the government of Finland, were they on board with Housing First right away, or was it sort of something you had to push movement on? And how were you able to make that shift happen?
I think that there was quite in an early phase there was political understanding, political will that this is a concrete issue that you can do something about. And we have a strong sense in the Finnish society that you have to try to keep everybody within the society included. So I think that the politicians understood that this is something that you can get concrete results. I don't think that they were so very aware of what housing first in our understanding would mean, but they understood that it doesn't cost so much money to provide the necessary housing and the necessary support.
That's great, Juha. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. Did you want to share with our conference participants and others who are going to be watching this video where they can get further information about what Finland has been doing and more about your foundation?
Yes, actually, we have had so many visitors in Finland that we provided a book in English about this Finnish model, A Home of Your Own, which can be downloaded free on our website. So it's Y-Foundation. I think that you will, with Google, you can find it on the net.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sitting with us today. Thanks for joining us at the National Conference on Ending Homelessness, and we hope to see you next year in 2019.